Hello everyone, my name is Strange and I believe that people should know the truth. In the last episode of this series of stories, Kidnapped, we met the young Hutchinson family, but something went wrong?
From the findings of the preliminary commission of the Department of Investigations of the State of California, San Diego, required during a sanitary inspection of the beach area on the western coast of the island of Caranata, a 3-bed ward was discovered by Diego Resort staff members. Burned from one end and with an unconscious naked man. The police and officers from the 2nd Coast Guard Department were called to the scene. The man required immediate medical assistance, which was provided by a staff physician of the Coast Guard. Later, the man was transported to a hospital in San Cristofan at Federico 26.
And so I continue our story. Michael Hutchinson couldn't figure out what was going on. He scolded himself for the 100,000th time for freaking out, for starting to talk about flashes of light and other devilry, which was absolutely exactly, he had seen everything himself. The look of his wife, full of pleading and fright, her open mouth, something terrible and dark coming across the sky from the ocean, and then illuminated by a flash. After the first psychiatric examination, he was transferred here to Trocatero, a closed-regime psychiatric clinic. Surveys and other research have also been conducted here. He no longer believed that he had ever been a healthy person. And somewhere there was his wife and child. Michael stood in the middle of a small room, measuring the walls, upholstered in thin polymer. External communication with the world. Armored transparent glass shone with summer light. How long has he been here? At first he tries to explain everything, then he just agreed with everything. When a female psychologist from the Department of Investigations came to him, he believed that everything would change, and they would help him soon, and most importantly, they would find a wife and child. But he was wrong. The psychologist made notes in her notebook, nodded her head, agreed, and asked questions again. The doctors behaved the same way. To them, he was a patent lunatic, and the only thing they did together was convince him of his mental inferiority. The door rattled with locks. 2 huge orderlies entered the room, and with them the doctor, always courteous, kind, bald old man.
Good morning, Mr. Hutchinson. How are you feeling? So, the doctor opened the patient's personal card. Today we have a hypnotherapy session, then procedures, and after that, you have an appointment with the inspector of the Department of Investigations.
Michael looked at the doctor hopefully. Maybe the case will finally move forward. Some information may be received, but Michael had been taught by bitter experience. He hid his excitement. Thank you, doctor.
Great, get ready. Get yourself in order. The nurse will come for you soon.
Michael remembered the detective. A fat, short man in a hat, smoking a cigarette from under his mustache. This was already the second interrogation at the station before he rattled here. The first time they met was at the clinic. Today, something will be decided. From the preliminary medical report, Trocatero Clinic.
Patient Michael D. Hutchinson shows persistent signs of acute schizophrenia. The reason could be a very strong, momentary stress. Currently, a complex of necessary therapeutic and medicinal procedures is being carried out.
Based on the results of instrumental research,
Patient Michael D. Hutchinson, 27 years old, suffers from severe heart failure and arrhythmia. Constantly uses an implanted heart rhythm driver. Currently, the rhythm driver has been replaced. The pre-installed one was damaged by temperature exposure to the chest area. Upon examination, a severe burn was found under the right nipple. In addition, the patient has a mirror location of the heart, a rare congenital condition. The brain encephalogram did not reveal any abnormalities in the structure, nor were there any metabolic disorders of brain tissues, which additionally indirectly confirms the version of an acute schizophrenic crisis amid stress.
the doctor in charge of Michael's condition also expected the arrival of a detective, for whom a special pass was issued. Like Michael, he was expecting Detective Fowles, who was investigating the disappearance of Hutchinson's wife and son, but despite everything, a completely unknown man appeared, who somehow managed to get into the territory using a pass issued to Fowles. The doctor looked at the inspector's certificate in surprise.
I'm sorry, but how did you manage to get into the Trocatero territory? We were expecting Detective Fowles. A pass for him had been ordered in advance.
The man in the black jacket smiled coldly.
Detective Fowlis has been suspended from the investigation as of today. Before we continue the conversation, you should familiarize yourself with the following document.
The man handed the doctor a small half-sheet A4 blank card on which was written the following.
The holder of a special pass card is endowed with special powers and performs a special task of the government. Refusal of assistance is considered as high treason.
At the bottom of the map there was a sweeping signature and many seals. In the middle, a watermark in the form of an American flag, and a yellow-billed eagle was drawn through the letters. The abbreviation was SDS, a Special Department of Secret Investigations. The doctor did not understand anything at all. He looked at the card, then at the man who presented it.
Excuse me, are you from the FBI? Has the case reached the federal level?
The man sat down without asking and smiled.
Yes, the case of Michael Hutchinson is supervised by a government commission. What can you say specifically about his condition?
The doctor repeated what he thought was the only right thing: acute schizophrenia caused by severe stress.
Okay, this is quite logical because our staff could not find intelligible traces at the scene. In addition, traces of his wife and child were not found. I can say even more.
The doctor looked at the inspector with interest.
Michael Hutchinson never had a wife and child at all. There is no information about them in his biography. In addition, he was registered, and a few years ago he served time for hooligan and deviant behavior in Washington National Park.
The doctor raised his eyebrows in surprise. The inspector's tone and what he was saying did not like the doctor, and it was absurd.
But we were given his personal medical card at the residential address, indicated by the patient, an insurance policy. There is no information in the card about his insanity or about his observation at the clinic of penicilleries.
The man smiled again, a smile that was wandering, uncertain, sly, and arrogant at the same time.
That's right, Doc. That's right. After admission to the Columbia County Jail, a new card was placed on the prisoner, which is not disclosed to civilian institutions, and as for psychiatric supervision at the place of residence, after a brief observation, he was bailed out by the local Christian society. Most likely the card was lost or stored with them. As you can see, we have made thorough inquiries about Michael Hutchinson.
I don't understand anything at all. So will you be conducting a conversation with the patient?
The inspector, or who he really was, got up.
You don't need to understand anything. You just have to help us. Yes, it is for us, because I represent government agencies. I have a specific question and an assignment for you.
The doctor, who stopped drinking many years ago, at this moment felt a steady desire to knock over another glass of good vodka with lemon. He spread his hands.
I'm at your service, Mr.
Mr. Taylor, just Mr. Taylor to you. So during the examination of the patient, were any anomalies found?
No, it's nothing special. Although you can familiarize yourself with everything yourself.
The doctor got up and turned to the cabinets behind the table, ran his fingers over the spines, and pulled out the necessary folder from the preliminary medical report, Trocadero Clinic.
During an ECG and ultrasound of the heart, a metal object implanted in the heart and involved in natural life-supporting processes was found in the structures of the left ventricle.
The inspector looked at the doctor with narrowed, predatory eyes.
Have you extracted this structure?
The doctor shook his head.
No, as you could read, it provides heart function. Hutchinson's patient is a core, and we are not the cardiology department of a surgical center. If you notice the sign at the entrance, then you are now in the Trocadero Psychiatric Clinic.
The situation was heating up. To diffuse it somehow, the inspector smiled.
Don't get too excited, Doctor. So I told you that I would have an assignment for you. Currently, the investigation into the disappearance of his wife and child has been closed. I have given you the reason. What is required of you is to achieve a stable remission of the patient, to help him get rid of schizophrenic visions and thoughts about the incident. Don't you agree that Hutchinson has schizophrenia?
The doctor was already not sure of anything himself. Everything seemed crazy strange.
Yes, we will do everything possible to bring the patient back to society.
Great. Remember, from now on, you work directly for the special department.
On this note, the inspector took his leave, leaving the doctor alone. In more than 20 years of practice, such a case was the first in his memory. An ordinary patient delivered in a state of severe depression, latent stress with signs of schizophrenia, and suddenly a guy from a certain government service is interested in him. God knows what's going on. By evening, the doctor began to take root in the idea that most likely Michael Hutchinson still had both a wife and a child. But something really happened to them, something terrible, and most likely in front of a man. The brain and consciousness, affected by stress, hid memories, erased or disguised with something else. Something that could seem phantasmagoric, and most likely with his family. Something terrible was completely some son or daughter, or maybe a group of teenagers who are now being protected from retaliation by a government jerk. The doctor recalled the case of the senator's son, Abraham Stones, who was involved in drug trafficking and the involvement of young women in prostitution. One of the victims was also taken to the clinic with a bunch of memories and impressions that led her to attempt suicide. It was at the clinic that she gave her first testimony against Abraham. Then in this very office at different times, on this very chair opposite, there were also two guys. One FBI agent investigating the case of Abraham Stones who wanted to put him behind bars, and the second from the National Security Agency, trying to cover up the case and protect Stones. Then the FBI agent won, and the senator's son was handcuffed and taken to court, and from there to prison. Now, apparently, darker, dirtier forces were winning. The doctor pulled the phone towards him.
Martha, come in. I want to give orders about the patient M. Hutchinson.
40-year-old Martha hurriedly entered the office, having prepared a medical form.
Good afternoon, Dr. McD. I have prepared a blank form.
The doctor nodded.
You're a good girl. So transfer Hutchinson's patient to the general observation ward where patients with mild cases stay. Place him in the ward with patients entering remission, prescribed light occupational therapy, and unsupervised walks in a closed section of the park. Remove the drug therapy.
But he has schizophrenia, doctor.
Martha, your job is to follow my orders. In addition, assign the patient a repeated cardiological examination. Prepare a map of the drugs that the patient takes.
The doctor saw Martha's face darken at his harsh tone.
Martha, you're a smart girl. Forgive me for my tone. Today is a difficult day. Just follow my instructions and also prepare the patient for the interview.
With whom?
With me, in this very office, okay?
Martha nodded and went to the exit.
Martha, stay late. I ask you to excuse me again. Did the inspector who came in talk to you? Maybe he left a business card?
No, he went straight to your office, didn't talk to me.
All right, darling, you are free.
The day started well, but by noon, with the arrival of the inspector, everything had changed. It turned upside down. Government? Well, fuck him. The government. The Republicans once again stood at the head of the United States along with D. Trump, and the doctor was an ardent conservative, a southerner by origin. He decided to figure everything out himself. With you again, Strange. Subscribe to the channel and click on the bell. All notifications so you will not miss the continuation of this terrible story. And also, send me your stories related to aliens by email. You will find contacts in the About the Channel section. Together, we will force the authorities of all countries to disclose all the information they have. After all, people should know the truth.